Okay, let's kind of take a quick peek at your time trial. What I see right off the bat is like very interesting and impressive. So, quick little tour up at the bottom. You have your cadence. This is your stroke rate. You have a lot of variability. You have these little peaks of speed where you'll see when you watch through it, you do bursts of speed. I'm not exactly sure why, but maybe it correlates to um, like a switch from one side to the other. You can see that you do kind of build your average pace towards the finish line. And over here on speed, you'll see this is kind of your initial start, and then you come down to like a really solid race pace, and then you have a couple like a peak here, and then a pretty solid finish compared to what I've seen with my athletes. A lot of athletes will kind of maybe maintain or fall apart on the finish line. Here is just the distance that you've traveled. This is a heat map. Basically, it's the GPS path you took. So if you did a hard left, you would see like a curved left. But basically, we did a straight line for a 500-meter course. The color coordinates to speed. So warmer colors are your faster colors, cooler colors are your slower. So what you can see right off the bat is during your start, you had your hottest colors, your warmest colors. You were going your fastest at your start, and then it starts to cool down to orange for kind of your race pace, yellow, and then up to orange again. You don't have a lot of yellow, which is great. It means that you didn't really drop down that far from uh, your start speed, which I have seen a lot of my athletes have just long sections of yellow, which means that they really have a huge difference in speed between their sprint and their race pace and even their finish. Another thing I think was really impressive is that you actually have um, an actual pickup of speed on your finish, which I saw in person, knew it was going to look like this, but from what I've seen with a lot of athletes is that they just have nothing left in the tank. And so it was really impressive to see this finish where it gets warmer because you're going faster. And you can see it down here with your finish in your speed. Another thing I thought was really interesting was that your starting heart rate was very low. It climbed pretty quickly, but then it maintained like a constant rise, which everyone's different. I thought it was a very interesting heart rate, like solid, nothing weird about it at all. Um, I'm wondering if maybe your heart rate was too low to begin with, like you weren't quite in your ready zone. But again, everyone's different. I have no idea what your specific heart rate zones are. So that's kind of more information for you to think of, like, hey, do I find that I do better with a higher starting heart rate, like maybe in the 130s? Maybe I can get off the line to my top easier or quicker. Because, let's see, you started to get to your kind of consistent heart rate at 159, about 20 seconds in. Yeah, it doesn't really mean much. So let's see. One thing I thought was really interesting was these peaks of speed. Like for example, here's your stroke rate at a 58, and your speed is 13.6, and then you really picked up your stroke rate. Come on. What's the fastest way to get through this? So up, 72, but your speed hasn't changed. So a huge difference in stroke rate. So from 59 to 70, but your speed hasn't really changed. So I'm wondering why? Why do you do these? Do you do these before like you switch sides, or as kind of like a little burst I'm not sure. What I'm curious is if you didn't have these bursts of speed, or I don't want to say a burst of speed because your speed doesn't change, but you have these bursts of cadence changes. Your stroke rate is changing. If your cadence was more consistent throughout, would you be able to maintain a higher speed? I'm wondering if these little bursts of stroke rate are tiring you out and maybe slowing down your average speed. Let's see, let's find another one. Because I think, what was it? So before you went into it, 58, you were 13.6. And then 75, 13.8, just barely faster for like such a dramatic stroke rate change. So like if you were just to maintain that 58, something like maybe like a 60 average stroke rate, like maybe a 60, yeah, like a 60 stroke rate, could you have an average speed that's higher? Because then you drop down after that burst to like a 57, maybe because you're tired from that high stroke rate, and you get down to like a 13 or down even into the 12s for the first time. But then, so my thought is maybe you're mentally like, all right, I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna do a little burst, but then that tires you down. So then you're going a little bit slower for a minute. And you're like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta do another burst. I gotta get back up on that speed. But then I think you're tiring yourself out over the long game with these little bursts. I really think, unless you have a really strong opinion about them, like cutting them out might help your overall speed. So if here's like your biggest one, and it's at the 200, like almost halfway mark, and your speed just really isn't that different as a result of it. 13 kilometers per hour, 13.6. Like you were going faster here, like 13.6, like 66. I say 65 stroke rate might be like your speed for like optimal speed and cadence. Let's see. You have another peak here. You can actually see this one kind of correlates with your speed a little bit. It's actually on your way down that your speed bumps up. So you're putting more power into the strokes as you start to slow down, and you see that your speed increases. And then from here you have kind of like an average like overall cadence build. I'm gonna say like a couple of spiky boys, but from here at 462 meters, this is where you're like, okay, I'm gonna build up my cadence for these last 40 meters. And let's see, your stroke rate actually, your speed dips a little bit, but who knows what that GPS is a little inaccurate. So you start climbing up to 80. Oh, you know what, man? Like, you have this really high stroke rate, but your speed is not necessarily going up from it. When you pulled back down to that, like, you kind of restarted, you switched sides. Could this be one side stronger than the other? You switched to your right, and you started again, and your speed started to increase. 13.7, 13.7. And then you got up to a 107, which is crazy. And then that's your max speed, or for the finish. Like, yeah, that correlated. Once you switched to your right side, your high stroke rate, you were able to connect that power. But on your left, maybe you don't have that strength. Let's see. I'm gonna jump around. Let's see if your left side, 60 stroke rate, 3.6. Left side, 70. It's the same speed, just higher stroke rate. Okay, when do you switch? Switch. You didn't, right there. So 75 right side, 13.8. So it seems like your right side can handle that higher stroke rate and actually like it does something with it. But your left side higher stroke rate maybe can't handle that speed. Right side 56. Your right side, like you have a lower stroke rate here, but your speed is still pretty much the same. So I guess my biggest takeaway from this is that I don't personally understand the bursts in speed, or sorry, the bursts in cadence changes, stroke rate changes. I think if you just had a more consistent, like 65 across the board, and then I think your overall like average speed during the race would improve. You maybe wouldn't dip into like the 12s for kilometers per hour, maybe. And then I don't necessarily know if your high stroke rate near the finish, it mostly on the left side, made a change, like, but definitely when you switch to your right side, it showed effectiveness. So these are just kind of my personal takeaways. I don't know much about your sport, but I hope that this tool is helpful, and I hope that me talking was useful. So, yeah.